Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Steve. This is Brand Building Against QSR Clutter. Want to do kind of a quick survey of the audience as we're thinking of getting into this and structuring. How many of you, by show of hands, are marketing managers or brand managers? Okay. How many of you are folks who are vendors, platforms, agencies? Keep your hands up. So everyone who raised your hand in the beginning, get all of those people to buy you a drink because we know you deserve it. And all the ladies to my left definitely deserve it too, as they've been building their concepts and really trying to carve out space for their brands. I think one of the things that was interesting as this session started is there's a little bit of difference, maybe in points of opinion or the way people are running their media when it comes to the brand versus the performance. And so I think we're going to have a really insightful conversation today about that. I think it's easy, the large folks, Popeyes is here, Burger King's here, to assume that with scale, you get return. I think one of the things that scale doesn't buy you is preference. And so excited to talk to these brands today because they've done an amazing job in driving preference. They've done an amazing job in getting people excited about their brands with the things that they're doing. So I know, Allison, you just talked about your concept. Jane and Artie, can you just talk a little bit about what you're doing with Melt Shop and Capriotti's?
So Capriotti's is has two weird regional bases, Delaware and Las Vegas. But the brand is about a 40-year-old brand. Our specialty over the past 40 years has been roasting turkeys overnight and hand pulling the freshly roasted turkey off the bone every morning and making sandwiches out of it. So we have some incredible kind of Thanksgiving themed sandwiches and great turkey sandwiches, but we also added, along with the turkeys, sell tremendously high-end cheesesteaks. So we have an array of about 8 different cheesesteaks to complement the turkeys sandwiches. But what we're really, I think, it was really inspiring to hear about Burger King because we've tried to be as disruptive as possible with a really bold personality over the past couple of years, and it's been working really effectively for us.
So a little bit about Melt Shop. We started in 2001 as a grilled cheese concept. We took a very familiar product and we were really differentiated because nobody else was doing it. Over the years, we've developed into a full menu of melted sandwiches, cheeseburgers. We're just doing chicken on a bun, tenders, tots, and really taking this concept that started in New York City and is now expanded throughout the Northeast and creating a product of just good food. We live in this beautiful space where our guests want our food. You need a salad, you need a healthy veggie plate, you come to Melt Shop because you want our food. You've had a bad day, you're celebrating, you're hungover, whichever it is, it's a really nice space to live in. Over the past year, we've actually focused on taking that good food and adding the convenience factor so you can get Melt Shop however you want. You can walk into our shops, we're testing kiosks, you don't have to talk about anybody, you order, you're in and out. You want a little bit of engagement with our cashiers, you can do that. We have an app that you can order pickup on, delivery, we do the third party, and so we're really giving you the experience that you want that's in the best method that you want it.
Thank you. So kind of all of you hit on some things in your presentation, Allison, as well, of the role of your brand, doing things differently, maybe positioning yourselves a little bit differently. Can you talk, all three of you, a little bit about how you're balancing brand performance, the idea of ROI, the lower funnel metrics, the things that we're tracking, with building brand perception, the place that someone wants to go when they're hungover, that stands out in the feed? Let's have people kind of unpack that a little bit. Whoever wants to start.
I can take that. I can take the starter over there. I think, like I said, we created this familiar product, and it has been a little bit difficult in the frequency range because everybody thinks they can make a grilled cheese. So we've really focused on, how do we get our guests and our customers that are very engaged to help us build the brand. So we use a customer service engagement tool called Tattle. And within Tattle, we've actually asked very directed questions about what our guests want. So if we're thinking about testing tenders, for example, we put it on the survey in advance to see what the perception is going to be and how people are going to react to something like that. That seems like a far extension of the brand, but it makes sense. And this, in the past 90 days, we've gotten 1,800 Tattle responses. So it's a good tool for us to really help tell that story, and it feels like a partnership with our guests.
So we've just been really forthright about really leveraging and embracing our brand about extraordinary. And, the way we've been positioning it recently, really effectively is, everybody's got their own version of extraordinary. Our version of extraordinary is just killer food. So, we take all the time to make celebrate these really slow processes that we have so we can deliver food really fast. Cooking, slow roasting these turkeys, taking extra care in the long process of making these killer cheesesteaks. So we have really focused on that, but we're doing it and really tailoring the message to each media channel in a way that's super digestible for that media channel to take advantage of, the strength of social and that storytelling and the fact that we can be a little bit more engaging or crazy, whereas when we're buying radio, we're definitely still a little bit more canned, but we're pushing the boundaries of our personality in that kind of you do your extraordinary, we'll do ours, and this is our version of extraordinary. And if you believe in extraordinary, which everybody does, come celebrate that your version of extraordinary with us.
Very similar to Jane in terms of we really have to focus on the payoff of that experience. So for us, again, most of our marketing right now really has been press and social media. And I want to go back to a couple of the things that I mentioned where the depth, it really has to be done with intention. So in terms of creating Thanksgiving dinner out of ice cream, if it wasn't good, that we would not still be talking about it. It would be a one-hit wonder, and people would be like, oh, that was really interesting. What's the next thing? But each year, people will come back, and that will become part of their Thanksgiving. And so there has to be true intention. Same thing with the edible bugs. That seems like, oh, that's crazy. It has an intention, talking about proteins and insects and the way in which things are moving forward. But yes, it's also very timely and doing it at a time when people might be able to take it in based on Halloween. So I think it's really being thoughtful and intentional to have depth to what at the surface level might seem sort of like, oh, that's wacky. That would be more short-lived. So I think that's really been our focus at this point in time.
Yeah, so interesting that kind of all three of you, it sounds like perception becomes a bit of a driver of performance, but you try to be strategic about the way that you're doing it, either with the intention that's behind it, what your customers want to get from you, or what they might expect as you're thinking about how you push your brand. And then I think, Jane, for you, being very intentional in where you put it in the channel as you're thinking about what metric it's delivering against. I think one of the things that came up very clearly in this morning's recap was the role of channels. Can you talk a little bit, Jane, maybe about your strategy, your marketing strategy overall, tactics, channels, and kind of where you've seen successes or challenges in the plans you've put into place?
Yeah, when I joined Capriati's about 2.5 years ago, and we didn't have a very big media budget. I rolled out 2 or 3 co-ops, put together some media budgets so we could start in our geographic areas of strength, start advertising. So first thing I jumped into was a big strategic digital initiative to push the brand forward with a digital, so we could be very purposeful and data driven and make it incredibly smart and I could prove out that advertising worked effectively. And what we found was just that kind of single-minded focus on one channel wasn't delivering the ROI that we needed. Certainly it had reach, it had frequency, it had all the, we expected it to, be able to drive great results. But geo-targeting's not a perfect science, and programmatic is hard, and without having kind of a broader media awareness, we didn't see the results that we had anticipated. So we started diversifying our media spending. We have enough money, we're in a position where we can diversify our media spending, and we can buy, mix in radio, which is so a little bit more broader, broadcast, mass market reach with digital, and we started seeing a lot better results. And we've been very purposeful in marrying up our social, our what kind of programmatic digital, and our radio, because that's what's within our budget. And we've seen a lot greater results out of kind of more of an omni-channel approach to going to market. And we can get really segmented and really dedicated to being more customer specific in our app, and we get a little bit more personality and deliver a lot of the energy of the brand in social, and then we use broadcast to deliver more broad market, and it's been working really effectively.
That's great. RT, how about you in terms of your media channels, tactics, strategy?
So we're really focused on digital this year. Some of our key tactics have been social and influencers. Like Jorge mentioned, we have an opportunity to really tell our story and build a voice with a little bit of sass, and that's actually paid off really well. And this year we're working on creating a digital ecosystem that really talks to each other. So we updated our app last year. So how do we use all of those channels to support our goals? Something we did in January was, it's technically a slow time for us because nobody wants a grilled cheese, but we're like, we're going to own it. So we became the official sponsors of your cheat day and pushed out a variety of tactics on all channels. So if you are a loyalty customer on our app, you got a deal at the beginning of the month that said, hey, when you're ready, I have a BOGO deal for you for your cheat day. We pushed it to influencers. When you guys are ready for your cheat day, I got a cheeseburger waiting for you. We did it on social, we did it on eBlast, and so really getting all those channels to talk is something we're focused on. But our focus has been more on digital, PR, some of the smaller scale stuff.
And Allison?
Yeah, I think for us, again, really focused on digital and how do we leverage. We recently launched our e-commerce as well. So for us, we've been focusing a lot more on specific to e-com, and then eventually when we hit sort of our high season this summer, focusing up more from a shop's perspective. But again, really, we're at the basics right now in terms of supporting our e-commerce business and then rolling that out for a shop perspective.
Sure. So a lot of digital focus, but making sure that there's other pieces rolled in, whether it be things happening in store with influencers, PR, more traditional tactics, that you're really rounding out the channels to try to reach the customer. I think that's something that can sometimes fall off, or something that maybe we've tested out of because data's gotten so good, but thinking about the environment they're about to move into where tracking changes, attribution starts to change, there's challenges. And so you all are really focusing heavily on how do you build the brand through different touch points for the user in a really relevant way. And it sounds like it's been working so far. I would love to know a little bit more about maybe how you've tested into those channels or what your process is with inside of your organization for doing tests or for maybe taking some risks when it comes to what you're doing with your brand marketing.
So we launch a lot of what we're doing is launching new products and testing through those. But when we test our marketing, we will do a lot of A/B testing, and a lot of it is not. I think what's really challenging is not just testing in one silo, because our entire marketing mix has an impact on our sales. So when we test in one silo, isolating the silo to what is the actual results for that silo sometimes gets a little noisy when it comes to how does it actually increase sales. So we end up looking at a lot of just media metrics as a result to really define our A/B test and see what is driving results. But looking that narrowly sometimes limits our ability to look broadly at what are the big sales impacts. So we do a lot of A/B testing. Last year we did a lot of A/B testing on our app. And saw that actually really engaging the customer was as effective as delivering really deep discounts. So that was a really big aha and new news to us. And then one other thing that we tested through was we've just been doing a lot of digital testing in terms of what is the right mix of programmatic video and programmatic display to drive sales. And like everybody else is learning, video is what's doing the trick.
Yeah, I'm going to echo your sentiment. We do a lot of tasting, and we also have a fail fast mentality. So if it's not working, let's get together and fix it. I think that's the best you can do, and we'll test it. We have franchise locations, we have corporate owned, and we have licensing. So we'll start at the corporate owned level to see what it's working, and we have the ability to fail fast there and taking the data, then presenting it to our partners and really expanding from there.
Yeah, I very much in terms of the fail fast. Really learn quickly, looking at the feedback, what takes. We are pleasantly surprised on certain things like, wow, people really responded to that. So do a little bit more of this. And I think it's just continuing to just try different angles has been really the way in which we've learned the most.
And speaking of different angles, it sounds like all of you do a lot when it comes to menu adaptation or maybe menu expansion. Can you talk a little bit about the role of the menu and the product in building your brand in a really crowded marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, for us, our food is our story. And like I mentioned earlier, people come to Melt Shop because they love us. And so we really have to make sure the food has that craveability angle. And it gives us something to talk about. So we launched a series of LTOs last year. So every quarter, in April, which is National Grilled Cheese Month, we will do a series of products that are just really crave forward and that we want to test to see is this worth really putting on the menu permanently. And so it's usually 3 products and it's the same tactics across the board. It's 4-wall marketing, it's social, it's influencers, it's PR, and it just gives us this opportunity to reconnect with guests and to get new guests and build that brand awareness and tell the story of Melt Shop.
So we launched 3 new products last year, and we'll launch 3 or 4 new products this year. And for us, we have a 40-year-old brand. We actually haven't changed our menu very much in 40 years. So adding new products to the menu has been really interesting. And what we've used for them for last year was to change our profitability mix, and so that way to drive more profitability into the restaurant, which was a really effective strategy for us. Adding more chicken and turkey into the menu worked great, and then this year we're doing it to drive top line sales, and we've did our first product launch last week and have seen a huge top line sales increase. But we did do it with a really robust marketing plan, with a very omni-channel approach to reaching customers in lots of different ways, and also looking kind of at a mass market mixed in with a very specific targeted strategies to reach the very specific target audience. We know who are the buyers, so it's been working really effectively in week 1. So
You just launched Impossible, right?
it was an Impossible cheesesteak.
Look out, Burger King. But I think there's something interesting in what all of you've said is there's a bit of a balancing between the core, the things that are the staples, the LTOs, the things that get people in. Are there strategies that you have for making sure that you continue to elevate your core products with your fan base of customers while you're still introducing things that maybe make headlines or get people to stop and say, bug ice cream, that's so crazy?
Last year, we refined our core products. One of the things we did was, a cheesesteak is great, but if it has mushrooms, onions, and peppers on it, it is like heaven. So we made mushrooms, peppers, and onions standard to the recipe. So now you have to remove them, it was a really big deal for a 40-year-old brand to make that kind of a adaptation. Muscle memory, we retrain everybody from a muscle memory standpoint on how to think about it and how to do it, and those core customers had to make a change. But now, our first-time user experience has really improved as a result of delivering that product in its very best iteration of itself. So that way, as we're bringing in new customers, they're more likely to come back.
Yeah, and I think you stay focused, true to who you are. We recently launched cheeseburgers, which was the first time we did a soft bun. We did a burger, and it seemed like such a far reach from who we are, but we used the same type of terminology and how do we make this ownable? Okay, this is going to be the cheesiest cheeseburger. It had the same type of quality of ingredients. It had the same marketing strategy. It kind of had our same voice and feel, so it made sense. While it was for a far extension, you have to keep that in mind as well.
I think that ownability piece is really important. I'm sure you all deal with that all the time, especially knowing that you're expanding. How is that applied for Salt and Straw?
I think there's a couple of things that have really helped us. One is the sampling. So the majority of people do sample more than 2 different ice cream flavors. So that helps in terms of, hey, I can stay safe with my sea salt and caramel ribbons, and I can, go out here and do pear and blue cheese or what have you. And so I think that there's this balance where you're allowing them to explore, but also get their favorites. We also have sort of an inside secrets that people start to know where you can get a split scoop. So you can get, rather than saying, well, I really love this flavor and I really love this flavor versus a double scoop, you can get a single scoop that is split. So really finding ways to have people adopt those new flavors and those new experiences. I think also in terms of having things be available, we also are playing with LTOs online and having fun with a lot of our clients based on that respect too. So it's like, hey, we're going to bring this back online. We tuck to the kitchen. We have it made for a certain amount of time. And so it just keeps it fresh that they might not be able to get it in the shop, but then they could get it online. So we're really playing with a lot of different ways in which the menu continues to stay fresh and exciting and new.
Sometimes that play can feel like a little bit of a risk, I'm sure, just knowing that we're running out of time and thinking about what everyone here is probably interested in learning when we think about this specific topic. How would you recommend people take risks, or what's a recommendation you would have to people who are thinking about how do they stand out in all of the clutter? How do they make a name for themselves in this space?
We've taken a couple big kind of leaps of faith, and just the fact that we had opportunities that presented themselves that we had to move really fast on from like a market opportunity. So last year, the Las Vegas Golden Knights were in the Stanley Cup Finals. They were playing the Washington Capitals. And the city officials made a citywide announcement that nobody in Las Vegas should be using capital letters during the week of Stanley Cup. Our company name is Capriati's, and during the No Caps week, that was a little bit of a scary thing for us. So over the weekend, we rebranded the entire concept to Night Riati's, inspired by the Golden Knights, and took advantage of every favor we could call in to like get in every kind of publication with a print ad over the weekend, and put it out on social media and did PR releases, and became Night Riati's for the week of the Stanley Cup. So it meant that we had to kind of drop everything we were doing for the weekend in order to pull it off, but it was a huge PR kind of win for us in this no caps environment for us to take advantage of that. So I think as much as taking a risk, it's also willing to take a chance as fast as you can when a weird opportunity arises that puts you at the center of the community.
I think one of the things that we all hear the buzzword about authenticity, and that has really stayed true. So when we think about going to Miami, which is really new, Tyler and team have spent over a year understanding that particular market and really meeting with the culinary who's who of that market and who we're partnering with and so on. And so that you're not necessarily just going in with your preconceived notions of what flavors Miami should be. Some of them might be that way, but with a twist. And so just staying, again, very authentic to what is the newness that you're bringing. Yes, you're bringing a reflection of the community, but maybe in a different way. So you're actually adding to the community versus sort of reflecting the same. So I think that's been very, very important for us.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think it's just knowing what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve, but also knowing that the path to getting there is going to be completely different. So take a couple of risks, but again, fail fast. We have this mentality of listening to our guests, testing a product, tweaking it, listening to them again, tweaking it, and then rolling out. And so it's just learning to be nimble and act fast.
Thank you all so much. I think just to summarize and kind of recap what all of these ladies told us, the little nuggets of wisdom, balancing that idea of performance with perception. In the referral economy, there's so much value in what these brands are doing in the communities that they're building around their specific product. How do they balance digital with traditional and all of the role of channels, making sure that there is a pretty healthy mix and that they're not only thinking about the short-term implication of something that happens at the bottom of the funnel, but also that they're thinking about the long-term implication for their overall brand and their expansion path. And then I think finally, taking risks, finding ways to test hypotheses. Go in with an assumption, but go out with some sort of data that you're able to collect. I think that there's surely only great things to come from this crew, and I'm not sure if folks have questions for them or maybe how they've gotten to where they are, other recommendations they might have, but would love to open the floor for some questions. Steve, if I may.
Sarah, thank you so much, and panel, thank you so much. We have time for questions. Yeah. And where's the? We'll get the mic to you.
Hi guys. Me first?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you guys so much. Ashley Travis, a recent transplant from Seattle to Texas, so huge Salt and Straw fan. Balsamic strawberry is my jam. I asked them if you could bring some with you, but I was told no. That's okay. So A great presentation. I loved how you talked about building local communities. My question is around how you start to operationalize within your organization the ability to stay locally relevant, but still be efficient and how you operate, especially as you expand.
That is a great question. And for us, it really starts with the people that we're hiring. Do they really see this as being part of the community, and for our shop managers and our scoopers, and really just finding that right fit of people who really understand what Salt and Straw is trying to do and how it can add to their community. So that's first and foremost, is finding those the talent that really aligns. The other thing is, how do we set them up for success in terms of giving them tools of ways to interact with their communities? So we have a neighborhood pints program. So they are able to take a certain number of pints each week, and they can go to their neighbors or neighboring businesses. There's just a number of sort of grassroots programs that we have rolled out to help them be community ambassadors. We also, as I touched on just briefly, when we think about some of our partnerships, our strategic partners, that has been another way to help the shop managers be a part of the community. So in Seattle, serving at the Mariners, we're really excited about that this year. That helps them be a part of that community and have that conversation and ways to be able to be present outside of their particular shop area. So we've really tried to create a program and with tools to help them make connection points that are authentic and easy for them to do.
Back here?
Thank you. Hi, Nasli Hiramanik, Director of Brand Marketing at Firehouse Subs. When our agency is trying to get my blood pressure up, they'll send me articles like The Death of Lunch. And I think there was one headline about how lunch is over because everyone is just eating at their bacteria-infested desks. But the theme that was emerging from a lot of these articles and some secondary and even primary research was blending of day parts, a traditional lunch not being had in the same way it was, more snacking and grazing habits, especially of millennials and Gen Z. I'm wondering if any of that has affected any of you in terms of product promotion, media, in how you're thinking about how you're reaching audiences as these habits, and especially in the lunch day part, are changing.
That's an interesting question. We have definitely been changing the way our combos all work, so that way you can snack more accessibly. And we've also been changing our entire size makeup. Traditionally kind of these Delaware, Philly sandwich places all start at 9-inch sub, and so the market's evolved to a place where people are eating smaller more frequently, and so we've been mixing up the way our sizes work. We've launched a whole new size setup, so you can now eat a 5-inch sub, but there's tons of combos. So I think we're addressing it, immediately on a size and kind of combo and product mix. In addition to that, we have looked at, we do optimize our media based on kind of consumer-driven behavior, and have seen a media mix, the way we're optimizing our media is being delivered kind of more throughout the entire day.
Yeah, we're doing something similar as well. And to touch on what I said earlier, it is just giving the guests what they want when they want it. So that convenience factor, you can have it whenever you want in whatever channel you want it, whether it's sitting on your desk, not moving at all at 5 p.m. and you want a chicken sandwich, and really creating a menu that's adaptable to any day part.
And I think that's a great kind of additional point. As an agency, I'm so sorry that you're getting those articles. We send them around a lot. Auntie Anne's is one of my clients, so as you can imagine, not only is it like snacking and everything's different, but you also have a mall presence. So we get a lot of those scary articles, but I think to the point of, yes, there's menu innovation, there's size changes that can be made, that can be rolled out to hit on some of that snacking behavior, but there are still people who are eating lunch, and there's payoff points to the lunch that they can get from you. Accessibility, convenience, how are those being brought forward in your marketing message as you think about behavior changing? So not only about the day part and the menu that's available for that, but what other benefits does the customer get from having that interaction with you specifically? So I think there's a little more flexibility even just beyond menu changes to help with some of the marketing messaging to keep people coming for lunch.
So Sarah, Allison, Jane, and Arthi, thank you so much. That was a great